I'm going to give you an overview of what post-18 with an education and healthcare plan or not might look like to you. So it's nice to see so many faces here, nice to see some young people here. I recognise some faces. and does everyone know about SENDIASS? So it's Southampton Information, Advice and Support Service. So we give all of the advice around education and training from 0 to 25. So we are not local authority, we're an independent body, and we give legal advice around your options and needs. So who are we? So I've just gone over that briefly, SEND service from 0 to 25 with educational needs. We give information, factual information, we send out written information, we support in meetings sometimes, we can help if we get to a tribunal situation, and we can help from the smallest thing to the biggest thing. Capacity, of course, is our main problem at the moment because we are inundated with calls and there's lots and lots of need within Southampton City Centre. We can support young people, we can support parents, we can support adults. So today is about post-16, so it's looking more at supporting from 16 onwards. So how do we provide support as a service? So we've got phone lines, we've got emails that you can contact us on, we've got Facebook where you can refer yourself into, and we do face-to-face meetings. They're rarer now, obviously, since COVID, because of our time capacity. We support in the community like this, we do events, so we do events about annual review, so we can help a lot of people with one event at once. We've got leaflets and information in most of the schools, and in-person support, so we can book meetings and have meetings specifically about one particular thing or a problem that you need to progress yourselves. And we do lots of signposting as well online. So, the right to make a request and request decisions. So, this is all about the Mental Capacity Act and whether children and young people have the capacity to make decisions for themselves. Sometimes it's all decisions, sometimes it's just some decisions. So, as young people develop and increasingly form their own values and views, and they should be involved more and more closely in decisions about their own future, which is what post-16 is all about. And after compulsory school age, at the end of the academic year in which they turn 16, they have the right to make requests and decisions of their own via the Children and Families Act 2014. So this applies to them directly rather than to their parents at that point. So as a service, we always check with the child or the young person at that point whether they are happy for us to talk to their parents, and we make sure that they have the capacity and they give us permission to speak to their family and parents about this. Okay, the Mental Capacity 2005, the Act 2005 is the right of young people to make decisions. It's the subject of their capacity to do so is to set out a mental capacity in 2005. The underlying principle of the Act is to ensure that young people, that those people who lack the capacity are empowered to make as many decisions for themselves as possible, and that any decisions made or action taken on their behalf is done in their best interests. Decisions about the mental capacity are made on an individual basis and may be in according to the nature of the decisions. So someone who may lack capacity to make decisions in one area of their life may be able to make decisions in another area of their lives. So what are your options after 18? So there are 5 options that we're going to go through. So apprenticeships. And these are paid jobs that are incorporating training which lead to a nationally recognised qualification. And apprenticeships, as they earn and gain their practical skills in the workplace, and many may lead to a highly skilled career. And with this, your education and health and care plan can be retained during your apprenticeship. So your annual review before that would change your education and health and care plan to be suitable and support within that apprenticeship. So the next option would be a traineeship. So these are education and training programmes which work with work experience, focused on giving young people the skills and experience that they need to help them to complete an apprenticeship or other jobs. So traineeships last for 6 months and include core components of work preparation and training, English and maths, unless a GCSE of standard A to C has already been achieved. So you'll be having exams incorporated into your traineeship and a high quality of work experience placement. and they're currently open to young people aged 16 to 24, including those with education, health and care plans, and the plan would be maintained within this traineeship. Okay, supported internships. So these are structured study programmes for young people with education, health and care plans, based primarily with an employer. So the internship normally lasts for a year and includes an extended unpaid work placement of at least 6 months. Wherever possible, they support the young people to move into paid employment at the end of the programme. Students complete a personal study programme which includes the chance to study for relevant substantial qualification, if suitable, English and maths to an appropriate level. So it's not required, but it is offered. And again, you can keep your education, health and care plan for this programme as well. And then there's university, higher education and university, and we'll go on to what that means after. There are separate systems in place to support disabled children and young people in higher education. Sorry, not children, young people and adults, sorry. In level 4 and above, your education, health and care plan would not go with you at that point, but they do have systems in place in the universities, and each university has different offers of support. Okay, so option 5 is leaving education and training. Okay, so all young people with special education needs should be supported to make the transition to life and beyond school or college, whether or not they have an education, health and care plan. As well as preparing them for adulthood generally, schools and colleges should ensure that a young person, people with SEN, special educational needs, have the information that they need to make the final steps into this transition. This includes information about local employers, further training, and where to go for further support, which should be on the local offer on the Southampton City website. For young people with education, health and care plans, where it's known that the young person will soon be completing their time in education and training, the local authority should use the annual review process prior to ceasing the plan to agree the support and specific steps needed for the young person to engage with services and provision, which they'll be accessing once they've left education. This transition should be planned with timescales and clear responsibilities, and the young person should know what will happen when their education, health and care plan ceases. So this is going to be really inclusive of the young person within that final annual review meeting. During this planning process, the local authority must continue to maintain the young person's education, health and care plan as long as the young person needs it and remains in education or training. So the only time that the education, health and care plan can be ceased is when you get to 25, if you leave education and training, and if you go to university. Okay, so next bit is transition to the annual review process, which is the important process. So when you get to 18, that annual review will then determine which of those 5 options that you'll be going down. So if the young person aged 18 plans to move to a new phase of education or cease to attend the education institutions specified in their education, health and care plan, the local authority must hold an annual review. If the young person wishes to return to education at a different setting, the local authority will then amend the plan and name the new setting in that education, health and care plan. However, if the local authority decides to cease to maintain the plan, meaning that it will come to an end, the local authority will no longer have a legal duty to ensure that the educational provisions specified in the plan will be received by the young person. If the local authority is no longer responsible for the child or young person, or if it is no longer necessary to maintain the plan. So for examples for this, if it's been agreed that the young person, or assessed that the young person does not wish to return to educational training, if it's been determined that returning to educational training wouldn't be appropriate for the young person, if the young person's taken up employment, if they've started university, if that person's reached the age of 25, or if that person has moved on to a different local authority. So they are the reasons that the annual review will be held and if a plan may be ceased. So the local authority should use the final annual review to agree the support needed to help them to engage with services after they leave education. So for a young person over the age of 18, the local authority must have regard to whether the educational training outcomes in the education, health and care plan have been achieved. If they've not, this is an indication that the special educational needs provision should continue. However, the local authority cannot cease to maintain an education, health and care plan just because the outcomes have been achieved. They should consider whether it's necessary for new outcomes to be set. If the local authority decides to cease to maintain the education, health and care plan, the local authority must first consult with the child, parent and young person, as well as the head teacher of the principal of school or the college that they're attending, and issue what's called a cease to maintain notice, which means that the notice in writing to parents and young people telling them that the local authority wants to cease to maintain the education, health and care plan, and setting out the reasons why. If the local authority does not follow these steps or simply states that they're going to stop funding the education, health and care plan rather than issuing a cease to maintain notice, this is not lawful. This is because the parent or young person has the right to appeal only arises when they have made a formal decision to cease to maintain the education, health and care plan. Right, appealing the local authority's decision. So if you would disagree with the ceasing of your plan, you have the right of appeal with the first tier tribunal, with the Special Educational Needs Tribunal. And the appeal must be lodged within 2 months of the decision from the local authority to cease to maintain the plan. The local authority must keep the provision in place until at least the end of the right of appeal has expired, which is 2 months. Or if the parent or young person appeals against the local authority decision, then the local authority must keep provision in place until the appeal is finished. Just to let you know that appeals at the moment, when they're being lodged, they are on a 50-week programme. It's taking nearly a year to come to tribunal. So they would have to maintain that plan and provide everything within it for that 50 weeks until they got the decision. Higher education, transition to higher education. We'll briefly go over this one. The local authority should plan a smooth transition in. All of these things should be taken into account in the annual review, the last annual review. And once the young person has confirmed higher education, the local authority must pass a copy of the education, health and care plan over to the relevant institution, i.e. the university, for them to see. So they have the benefit of having all of the information and knowledge within the plan, despite the fact that they are not legally bound to adhere to everything that's in the plan or fund it. So types of support that can be offered in universities are the additional exam recommendations, assistive technology, accommodation adaptations, learning support, mentoring, separate study rooms, counselling and a mental health advisor. Disabled Students Allowance. So the Disabled Students Allowance, the DSA, is the support that covers study-related costs that you have because of mental health problems, long-term illnesses or any other disabilities. So this is a funding stream that you can apply for if you have a disability and you go into a higher education setting. So the types of support and how much you get depends on individual needs, and it's not based on your income, your household income, and you do not need to pay DSA back. Undergraduate and postgraduate students can get up to £26,000 for support in a year. Where a young person within an education, health and care plan makes a claim for DSA, the local authority must pass a copy of their plan to the relevant DSA assessor. And with Disabled Students Allowance, you can get help with costs with specialist equipment, for example, computers if you need one based on your disability. Quite often this is allocated for children with dyslexia or young people with dyslexia or other learning needs, where it's deemed that they need their own computer and special time to have that, and not to sit in a room with bigger screens and other equipment needed. Non-medical helpers, for example, British Sign Language, extra travel, attend your course or placement because of your disability, or other disability-related study support, for example, having to print additional copies of documents, etc. The DSA does not cover disability-related costs that you'd have if you were not attending the course, or costs that any student might have. And contextual offers. I don't know if anyone's got any knowledge about contextual offers, but each university has its own contextual offer. And a contextual offer is where it takes into account things like the area that you're from. So if you've got a low take-up of university from the area that you're from, they tend to encourage your children and young people going into university at that point. Students from schools with low progression, students living in low participation neighbourhoods, students who spent time in care, students who are refugees or asylum seekers who are disabled, young carers, which isn't on there. So if you're a young carer, that quite often applied to you. So it means contextual offers mean that your UCAS points that you would need to gain to enter that college or university for that particular course, they would offer you a lower entry level to encourage you to be able to access university where you might not ordinarily be able to. Done? Okay, sorry, I'm really sorry, I'm going to finish, I'm sorry.
Sorry, can we say thank you very much for your time? Sorry.
the useful links on our website as well, or on ReMinds website. There's some things on there that they're going to take you to all of the answers that you need. Please come back to us as well and ask any questions at all.